Please be seated. To get us started this evening, we'll start with a prayer, and I'll call on Engineer Joan Bourne to deliver the invocation.
We'll just start when everybody's settled. Okay, thank you, William. Let us pray. Father, we invoke your presence here tonight with praise, thanksgiving, and with joyful hearts for allowing us to fellowship in person with our colleagues and friends as we celebrate another successful year of service to Barbados by the engineering community. Father, we have had challenges and successes in the preceding years, but thanks to your grace and mercy, we have made it thus far. May we be strengthened by our experiences, and may you continue to guide us in whatever we do and wherever we go. We ask for your blessings on this event, Lord, and pray that its outcome will bring you honor and glory and will be according to your will. Bless especially our invited guests, Lord, our minister, our honorees tonight, our sponsors, those who organized the event, and all those who supported it in any way. We ask also that you bless the food in which we shall partake and the hands that prepared it. And finally, Father, when we depart, we ask that you shower us with your grace and take us safely to your homes. All these things we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Okay, now we've got that important business out of the way. My name is William Ashby, and my role this evening is to be the Master of Ceremonies for the event. The next item on our agenda is the welcome, and on behalf of the President, the welcome will be delivered by Engineer Paula Agbowu.
Thank you, William. Good night, everyone. Senator, the Honorable Lisa Cummins, Minister of Energy and Business, President of BAPE, Engineer Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Brown, Fellows of BAPE, fellow engineers, friends and family, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's truly a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege, and I'm sure you will agree with me, a privilege we will no longer take for granted, to be able to welcome you here tonight to our BAPE Annual Awards and Dinner. As the saying goes, we outside. It is indeed wonderful to be here physically to greet you tonight for the first time in 2 years. Before I go any further, it would be remiss of me although in absentia, to indicate first and foremost that we want to extend, on behalf of BAPE, heartiest congratulations to one of our engineering fellows, the Most Honorable Ralph Busy Williams, for being awarded in the recent Independence Honors, the island's highest honor, the Freedom of Barbados Award. Our engineers have been doing good things. We also want to publicly recognize one of our BAPE committee members and first vice president, Mr. Vincent Jones, along with his colleague, Mr. Hugh Holder, and this is hot off the press, for having won the entry in the design for the National Heroes Square Monument. I'm certain that we all look forward to seeing the built statue. As you are aware, we did have a virtual event last year, but I'm sure that you will agree that there's nothing like the real thing. Consequently, tonight, we will take the opportunity to present the awards not only for the year 2022, but also for the year 2021. I want you to welcome all the awardees tonight. I also want to specifically extend a warm welcome to our Minister of Business and Energy, Honorable Lisa Cummins, for agreeing to attend and being our feature speaker for this event tonight. Welcome and thank you. The past 2 years have been somewhat challenging for BAPE as the committee sought in a pandemic era to remain relevant to our members and not lose sight of our overarching responsibility to the members as well as to the profession. Consequently, the team got up to date with the technology, which was not difficult for our young engineers, and presented a number of seminars, webinars, and workshops, which were quite comprehensive and interesting, and they were very well attended. That attendance has given us the encouragement to continue in this vein, and we look forward to having additional and more educational topics that can go towards your CPD points over the coming year. Anyway, I don't want to take too much time. My job is just to welcome you here tonight. And without much further ado, I want to wish you all a pleasant welcome to this event tonight and wish that you have an enjoyable evening, and congratulations to all the awardees. Welcome.
Thank you, Paula. So as Engineer Agbo advised, we are quite privileged this evening to have the Minister of Energy with us. Before the start of the event, she was sharing with us how busy a day she had, and it really is exceptional, the amount of energy and so on. And we have to appreciate appreciate a person in her position. Not only does she have these higher national duties, but also regular family responsibilities, like so many. And so kudos to her for all that she does on behalf of our country. So a bit about Senator Cummins. Senator, the Honorable Lisa Cummins, is the Minister of Energy and Business Development. Senator Cummins, in July 2020, was invited to join the Cabinet of Barbados as Minister of Tourism and International Transport, after being appointed in May 2018 as a senator in the Upper House of Parliament. From 2018 until her appointment to Cabinet, she served as chairman of Barbados Port, Inc. Senator Cummins served as the executive director of the University of the West Indies Consulting Company from April 2016 to July 2020, a former career diplomat For 10 years, from 1997 to 2008, she served at the headquarters of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, where she covered the United Nations and then was posted to the Barbados Embassy at Washington, D.C. Senator Cummins worked with the Commonwealth Secretariat as a trade policy advisor from 2008 and was posted to Kampala, Uganda, as the lead technical advisor and a member of the negotiating team for services in the East African Community Trade Talks with Europe and the EAC Common Market. She also led the negotiations for Uganda at the World Trade Organization and the successfully concluded WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement. Ms. Cummins returned to Barbados to head the Barbados Coalition of Service Industries, something that intersects with one of our fellows this evening, the umbrella body for the services sector, and she did that from 2013 to 2018. And in that role, led the development of services standards for trade in the services sectors, advised on the implementation of the services chapter of the Economic Partnership Agreement of the CARICOM EU, and served on the National Negotiating Team for Services and Investment in the CARICOM Canada trade negotiations. The holder of an undergraduate degree in International Relations and Diplomacy from UE Mona, a Master of Science in International Trade Policy from UE Cave Hill, and a postgraduate certificate in professional education from the Harvard Kennedy School of Public Policy and on public-private partnerships. Senator Cummins is a past president of Rotary Club of Barbados and past assistant district governor of the district. That role also means that you can go see her tomorrow evening at Carol's by candlelight, yet something else on her agenda. That might have been a long introduction, but it was a pleasure for me to read because I had no idea that she was involved in all of these things in her experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Cummins to deliver our feature address.
Is it gonna ring? I'll try. Good evening, good night, I think. By now, 7:48. Good night. It is my absolute privilege to be here with all of you tonight. Many of you are familiar faces. Some of you are friends. Some of you are new colleagues and with whom I am looking forward to building a new relationship. And many of you are professional colleagues building Barbados through the profession of engineering. Good night to everyone. The Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, and it was really a long introduction, William. I'm really going to have to make sure that they don't send that out in the future. But I want, first of all, to recognize your president, Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Brown, who I met for the first time just a few days ago, and he has already demonstrated his absolute commitment to working along with us to make sure that his very important and valuable voice is added to the development of energy policy in Barbados. And I'm committed to working with him, your executive, and with all of you. Members of the executive, engineers, I'm not a fellow, but engineering fellows, and members of the press, colleagues and friends. Tonight is one of those nights where, as Engineer Paula Agwell said, we outside. And so for many of us who spent the last 2 years outside too, but not gathering in spaces like this, the beauty of camaraderie, the beauty of relationships, the beauty of being able to share space and with it to share ideas is once again with us. And I am very happy to be here. And yes, I will be at Rotary, Carols by Candlelight, with Peter and Roger and Engineering Grenville as well, hopefully tomorrow evening, because that's one of the things that I am always very passionate about my service. The only thing that is missing from that one thing is that I am the mother of a 23-year-old daughter. That's the only thing that was probably that they left off from that thing. My husband might probably say I'm a wife. Well, how about that? But I want, first of all, to say that this has been an interesting time. The development of the national energy policy I came and I inherited, obviously, a draft that has been there. I have come and taken over responsibility for the ministry that, interestingly enough, and I want to perhaps spend a few moments breaking down what this behemoth of a ministry actually involves, because then it involves all of you, not just in the question of energy, in particular renewable energy and energy sustainability, because that's one part of it. But we have under this ministry the energy side, which includes our fossil fuel business, which is BNOCL, National Terminal Company, and NPC, and of course the renewable energy agenda. But on the other side, we have international business, so every time the OECD wants to blacklist us, we have the EU harmful tax and those kinds of things. That is under the ministry on the international business side. The business development side of it, all of the business community, all of the service providers, the Chamber of Commerce, all of those, they constitute our stakeholders, as does the BAPE on our business side. We also have commerce, we have the trade facilitation agenda, so everything that moves in and across our borders, facilitating that movement is very much a part of what we do. The Fair Trading Commission, don't stone me, it is a quasi-judicial body, and so it functions a bit outside of the remit of the shareholder, and it is meant to function as an independent entity. But yes, the Fair Trading Commission, CAIPO, if there are two things that people have called me about, 10 calls in the last 6 weeks, 10 are about energy and connectivity, and 10 intersect with CAIPO. So CAIPO falls under my ministry and its remit, as of course do matters relating to commerce, trade licensing, all of those things. Now, why is that important to you sitting in this room, principally dealing with engineering? You are service providers, first of all. And so I want to make sure that my conversation with you is not limited only. I want to set the stage for that. I do not want to have a limited conversation with you only about the issues relating to energy. I want to also ensure that you are building a relationship with me and with my ministry on issues relating to the development of the engineering profession, to the development of export capability for the engineering profession, those long outstanding mutual recognition agreements that we were meant to have negotiated and completed with the Europeans, and then beyond there, those are very much back on my agenda, and I want to be able to work along with you on those things. The development of industry-specific standards. I know many of you, when I was head of BCSI, would have worked together with us on things like leadership in energy and environmental design, and ensuring that you had your AP and so on, those kinds of professional industry designation that then integrate the building industry into the engineering profession through industry standards. So all of those are among the things that I want to make sure that I can work with you on. But tonight, I do want to talk for a few moments about energy, and that's going to be my substantive message tonight. The national energy policy is there. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. The transitioning arrangements are there. The net zero targets are there. Prime Minister has spoken from the mountaintop globally around where Barbados wants to position itself and where Barbados sees you as part of that transition. We all know those things. But what does it require of us now? What does it need to have happen? Now, your president has shared with me what I consider to be very insightful comments and recommendations on where we need to go, and I have invited him, and I will make a issue a formal invitation to the BAPE to join the ministry's task force on the energy transition as we look at the implementation strategy for the National Energy Plan. And the BAPE will be invited to have a formal representation on that grouping. Now, why is that important, colleagues? We have been engaging with the United Nations. There has been the designation of a United Nations Special Envoy for the Secretary General on energy. They are looking all across the world at the countries like Barbados that have set high targets for itself, that has identified renewable energy, clean technology, and the transition into a net zero future as among the top priorities of a developing country. And Barbados has been very pleased to welcome the support from the United Nations in transitioning into a new platform that says, you have a national energy platform, you have a national energy strategy, but how do we fill the gap in between? How do we create a business plan out of that? What is the investment attraction level that is required for each of these targets that are being set? Who are the players that we need to be inviting to the table, and what do they need to bring? Do we have everything that we have locally? And if we don't have everything we have locally, then who should be our collaborators that are best in class from anywhere around the world? Those are the things that over the next few months, we will be working with you and all of the other stakeholders with. I'm also going to say that during the course of the coming weeks, one of the things that I am certain of, and I say this as a former head of BCSI, I sat as head of BCSI, the president of BCSI, and the executive director of the BCSI sat on the Barbados Private Sector Association, and through the BPSA, representation was made to the social partnership. But the time has come for entities like the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, given the agenda for our government and for our nation in energy, to have a far more representational voice in the development of national policy. And perhaps it may be useful for us to collaborate to see what, through the Barbados Coalition of Service Industries and through the Barbados Private Sector Association, the role of the BAPE may need to be in a country that is transitioning in renewable energy. Engineering voices are critical. Your voices are critical. I'm also going to share with you that when I met with the Barbados Manufacturers Association, you can see that I dashed away the speech, right? So I just talking. So when I met with the Barbados Manufacturers Association, I said to them, this is the country that was a first mover in solar panels. When we traveled throughout the world, we went everywhere. Everyone still had those electric water heaters in their houses. They did not have the solar panels that Barbados did. We are the first movers in solar panel inventions, and there were other countries like Israel that came along thereafter. But why does Barbados not have an aggressive manufacturing sector that is creating new innovations, new manufacturing products that are responsive to and anticipating the needs of a renewable energy transitioning country? Why does Barbados not become the hub anywhere in the world for research and development, innovation and manufacturing technology in renewable energy, and then become that nation that collaborates to export that knowledge, whether we export the finished product or the knowledge by way of the intellectual property? Barbados has to become that place again that is a hub for innovation. But we don't have a university engineering program here at Cave Hill. And I'm not certain that we need to have an engineering program here at Cave Hill, because I confess I went to Mona. I did international relations and diplomacy at Mona, and some of my best friends and my best relationships and my worldview, perhaps most importantly, has been shaped by the fact that I left and I came back. The notion that we all must stay in Barbados and be educated in Barbados perhaps has contributed to a certain level that perhaps may be problematic. There is real value in integrating into the Caribbean community as part of our education system. And so I'm supportive of the idea of having St. Augustine, for example, for EU and UK certified engineers, and the Mona campus for the US IE program. I'm quite comfortable with that, but there has to be a mechanism, and perhaps that mechanism may be through the BAPE, that allows for the BAPE and the Engineering Corps to create a foundation program that lends itself from the SJPI, from those students who are doing the engineering program there, into the level 3 program, BSc, all the way up to level 7 to PhD programs, that then can create a think tank of sorts, that then creates a consortium of engineers wherever they are, that whether they are here in Barbados or they're Barbadians and professionals living all across the globe, that they collate those ideas and that research into a collaborative think tank led by the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers in collaboration with the Barbados Renewable Energy Association and the Barbados Manufacturers Association to create that first mover advantage for Barbados once again. There is no country anywhere in the region that has taken the kinds of strides in renewable energy that Barbados has. Difficulties notwithstanding, there always will be difficulties, but there's no other country that has made the strides that Barbados has. And so what does a country that has made the strides like Barbados has do? Do we lose that momentum? Do we allow others? I think it's Michael Porter. For those of you who did international economic policy, Michael Porter said the competitive advantage of nations is that you either, the country, the competitive nation of today is overtaken by the competitive nation of tomorrow. Who are you as the engineers and as the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers going to allow to erode the first mover advantages that Barbados has established so far? Will you come together with the manufacturing community, with the Renewable Energy Association, all of which come out of the BCSI, all of which collaborate with the BCSI? How are you going to be creating first mover advantage? How are you creating new knowledge, new products, new services, new innovations that set the region on fire? Where is Barbados going to go next? In wind, in hydrogen, in geo, in PV, where are you going next? And it is my charge to you tonight, the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, one of the longest standing entities here in this country and one of the oldest professions in the world. I'm looking forward to seeing where you will go next. And I'm committing. I'm not just saying that I'm asking you to do it. I am committing that when January 2023 turns around, an early birthday gift, heads up, early birthday gift for me will be to sit together with you and the Barbados Renewable Energy Association, the Barbados Manufacturers Association, and Peter, you are chair of the Green Council of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Not Peter, Andy Armstrong is chair of the Renewable Energy Green Council of the Chamber of Commerce. I want to be able to bring all of the entities together and let us rationalize alongside the University of the West Indies how Barbados is to be positioned as a world-class innovator in energy resources, led by our professionals, led by you. And I commit, on behalf of the government, that we will collaborate not just with government resources, because we don't have a lot of those, but with government resources, but also with international partners, also with international development agencies. Many of the development partners are today moving away, as you know, from investing in projects that are financed by fossil fuels. They are instead investing in projects that take us where we need to go in the future. And I am confident that together with all of you, based on all I have seen so far, that many of you will then be among those whose names will be written in history, not just as fellows in the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, not just as the highest honor for Barbados as Ralph Busy Williams was given just last Independence Day, but globally, because you then become the innovators. And I'm not suggesting that Barbados has the manufacturing capacity to scale and to be able to service the needs of the globe. But I remember when I first joined the University of the West Indies, our first retreat for the leadership team of UWI was at the St. Augustine campus. Many of you, hands, went to engineering at, exactly. But there was a battery that the engineering faculty had developed. And at the time that I saw it in 2016, they had done enough work on that battery that it was able to power golf carts and small cars. I don't know what has happened between 2016 and 2022, but this brings me to my next challenge. The engineering professionals like yourselves need to also be collaborating with the engineering faculty of the University of the West Indies, because you need to be producing new products from new research. And for those research products that have already been in the pipeline, there is an opportunity for you in the BAPE and you as the engineering professionals to go back into your alma mater and to help develop those products that need to come to market. I remember also seeing a fuel for cars coming out of the engineering faculty at the University of West Indies at St. Augustine. What needs to come out of a University of the West Indies? And I'm going to flip between my energy and my business hat here to say this. I've shared with the business side of my ministry that out of the University of the West Indies and here at Cave Hill, there is an opportunity where in our PhD programs, in particular in our science-driven faculties, Cave Hill is the only faculty that does not have patents that are held from research and development. Mona has them in medical sciences. St. Augustine has them in engineering. Will you be among those partnering with the University of the West Indies here at Cave Hill to develop the new, most innovative product that is going to transform our energy sector? Where will it come from? And if it doesn't come from you, then who? The University of the West Indies is a phenomenal institution. And there is an opportunity for the research-led innovation, research-led and innovative entrepreneurship to emerge alongside professionals like the BAPE. And so where I started describing my ministry and what I'm responsible for and the gamut of my ministry, which includes business and trade and commerce and border facilitation and entrepreneurship and energy. There is an opportunity for us to blend all of those diverse strands together because they're all correlated, to be able to create a Barbados that is innovative, transformative, and is driven by our industry professional. This transformation that we are talking about must be industry-led. It must be led by you. And so under our theme tonight and the future of our country tonight, I want you to envisage where this country is going to be in the next 10 years as we envisage transitioning to 2030, a net zero future at 2030. What will be the strategic visioning of the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers? I want to be a part of developing that with you. And I'm looking forward early in the new year to beginning that process and seeing it through to fruition. I want to thank you for inviting me. I'm not going to even look back at the speech to see what I have not said, but I am confident that this is just the first of many conversations, not one, many conversations that we will be having with the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers. Congratulations to all of tonight's awardees. Congratulations to your executive. Well done to have gotten us this far through the last 2 years, despite all of the challenges, and I'm looking forward to many more with all of you.
Thank you very much, Senator Cummins. I'm sure the message of partnership and collaboration is welcomed by everyone in the room, not least our president. It's actually a wonderful challenge for the end of the year. Where will you go next? And our president, Lieutenant Colonel Brown, no doubt, as I said, would be very much welcoming the message of mobilizing the innovation and problem-solving competencies of engineers in Barbados, particularly the membership of BAPE, to help to drive Barbados's future. So a very appropriate message. Thank you, Senator Cummins. So we move next to the fun part of the program, the awards and recognition of engineers. The awarding of fellowships and recognition of projects of the year. As Engineer Agbu noted, we're kind of playing catch up this year, so we are doing double duty, both for the fellowships and the projects for 2021 and 2022. So BAPE is proud to have among its membership engineers who have distinguished themselves among their peers through their engineering work and civic contributions locally and across the Caribbean. In accordance with the bylaws of the association, the designation of fellow is conferred by a general meeting of members of BAPE upon nomination by the executive committee of persons meeting the stated requirements. Nominees shall have served a minimum of 20 years as engineers and have contributed significantly at the national or regional level in engineering and to the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers. The outstanding members of BAPE's fellowship include, at the moment, Engineer the Most Honorable Ralph Williams, Engineer the Honorable Tony Gibbs, Engineer Frank McConney, Engineer Bjorn Bjerkum, Engineer Ken Blackman, Engineer Andrew Gittins, Engineer Andrew Hutchinson, Engineer Peter Simpson, Engineer Philip Sobers, Engineer Errol Clark, Engineer Abdulhai Pandor, Engineer David Lashley, Engineer Vivian Ann Gittins, and Engineer Philip Tudor. Tonight, we are glad to have with us the cohort designated by the membership in 2021 as BAPE Fellows. Let's see if the technology works from distance here. It does. So we're going to press the Honorable Minister into service again in assisting with the presentation of these awards at the appropriate time. Well, sure, Senator. You can join Mr. Vincent Jones, our first Vice President. That just means, Senator, you have to stand through a bit of my long talk again. Okay. So, first up is Engineer Ralph Jackson Adams. With over 35 years professional experience with projects in Barbados and the Caribbean, Engineer Adams has served as Managing Director and Principal Engineer at his firm, Adams Consulting, since 1996. Previously, he ran Adams Walton Associates Consultants from 1984 to 1999. Notable projects in Barbados include the South Coast Treatment Plant, Northern Fisheries Complex and Retreat Marina, the Golden Square Freedom Park, several multi-million-dollar hotels in Barbados, and work on water resources management and flood resilience. Across the Caribbean, Engineer Adams has also provided engineering services for hotel projects in Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the British Virgin Islands, Antigua and Barbuda, and Jamaica. His other activities include supporting engineering students, his involvement with the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association, support for the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, and work with the National Water Advisory Committee of Barbados. Engineer Adams, I invite you to the podium to accept your award. And Engineer Adams, perhaps, as for everyone else, we're going to invite all of the awardees to deliver brief remarks about, pardon? No? You don't wish to? Okay, that's fine. Well, another one of our awardees told me earlier he was going to follow the pattern set by the others in terms of time, so we should do really well. No, but yes, everyone will be invited to deliver a few brief remarks if they so wish. So next up, let's see if we continue working here. Engineer Peter Williams. Peter, they're dating you here first. With over 43 years experience in electric utility and the energy sector. Engineer Williams served as a senior vice president of Emira Caribbean from 2011 to 2020, and before that as the managing director of Barbados Light and Power Company Limited from 2006 to 2011. Engineer Williams started his career as a generation engineer in the Barbados Light and Power Company from 1977 before moving on to senior planning engineering roles at headquarters in 1990. Engineer Williams is a chartered mechanical engineer as well as an electrical engineer with memberships of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers in the UK and IEEE in the US. He has served as the president of BAPE, the secretary on the executive committee, on the Engineers Registration Board, and as the chairman of CARELEC. With far-reaching service in the national and international electricity sector, some of the projects in which Engineer Williams has been involved include the Seawell Generation Station, underground transmission projects, Great Thai solar PV projects, and his work with the BLPC regulatory and technical area. Engineer Williams mentors graduate engineers and has a long record of community service. He established the Suzuki Music Barbados, which I personally know a lot about because my children participated in the violin training there, and I've seen Peter's skill at concerts and so on, so indeed multifaceted. Peter is a member of the Privy Council of Barbados, a president of the Rotary Club of Barbados, a trustee of the BLPC Self-Insurance Fund, a director of First Citizens Bank, and a director of the St. Patrick's Roman Catholic School. So, eminently qualified and deserving of the award and recognition which he was given as a fellow of the BAPE. Peter, I invite you to the podium. And as promised.
Let me break with Rao's tradition. Just to say thank you to the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers for this honor, and I really appreciate it. Thank you to the President. And also I want to just say thank you to Mr. Andrew Gittins, who has been my mentor for decades, and I wish he were here tonight to share in this occasion with me. But I did see him yesterday, so I will have a chat with him. And, I think it is sort of also a pleasure that I've had the opportunity to mentor some of the young engineers, a few who are in this room with me, and I hope they'll speak fairly kindly of my mentorship. But just to say that I think, we are in good hands with the youth and the young engineers we have in the association for our future. Thank you.
We're particularly proud of this next one, obviously. Our own president, Engineer Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Brown. A retired professional electrical engineer and military officer, Engineer Brown has over 38 years experience in the electric utility sector. Again, someone whose experience and competencies perhaps one day more people will learn about, truly trailblazing. Engineer Brown was a founding president of the Cooperative General Insurance Company of Barbados, and we perhaps are much more familiar with his work in the Barbados Sustainable Energy Co-op Society Limited. In 2006, he was awarded the Barbados Silver Crown of Merit for youth development and voluntary work. We know as well Engineer Brown was extremely active in the Cadet Corps, and he was awarded the Caribbean Cadet Medal by the Caribbean Cadet Association for his contribution to youth development. At present, he has been the longest serving president of the Association of Professional Engineers, yes, as Engineer Agbo leads us, and currently serves as well as the chairman of the Council of Caribbean Engineering Organizations. Engineer Brown is a director of the Barbados National Standards Institute and has provided outstanding leadership on national dialogue on engineering matters through his work with the Ministry of Energy, media publications, and his numerous and frequent radio and TV presentations. He is a past chairman of the Engineers Registration Board, and his hobbies include table tennis, model aircraft building, and computer programming, among a few of the numerous. So it is my pleasure to invite our president to the podium.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to take a few words because I've been banned from speaking by the organizing committee this afternoon. But I really want to say what an honor it is to have been recognized by my fellow engineers. I really don't deserve it because I've enjoyed all those things too much to really be awarded for it. But thank you very much for recognizing the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. This year, the association inducted one member into the category of fellowship. This person you will certainly recognize as being a voice in Barbados that most of the population would associate with the engineering profession, because his contribution has spanned beyond engineering into much wider public service. It's also appropriate before we start to congratulate Engineer Dr. Grenville Phillips on his recent award of his Doctor of Engineering degree in Structural Engineering by the University of Hertfordshire in the UK. And if there's one thing I've thought always a bit beyond me, Grenville, it's doing a doctorate in engineering. So, so well done. Yeah. So Engineer Phillips has over 31 years experience in civil and structural engineering. Some of those years we shared together at our previous firm, so I know a lot about Grenville. I think I'll keep a lot of it secret. Grenville is the author of, this is one publication, but Grenville has written about 3 books, I think, but we mentioned one here, the Regional Code of Practice for the Construction of Houses. What do these cracks mean? A practical guide to identify the importance of cracks in buildings. But Grenville's interests, as I said, are very wide, and you can Google for yourself some of his other publications, extremely interesting. Grenville is a fellow of the Institution of Structural Engineers, a fellow of the Chartered Institution of Highways and Transportation, and as we mentioned, he's been awarded his Doctor of Engineering degree. Grenville has conducted seminars across many organizations, including development banks and other banks in the region, participated in expositions, arranged workshops, and worked with numerous voluntary organizations, both locally and across the Caribbean. His regional and national projects include work on tourism infrastructure, such as hotels, road rehabilitation projects, some of the major projects in Barbados and across the region. his work on the Coast Guard facility here, the Grantley Adams International Airport, and the Kensington Oval redevelopment project for World Cup Barbados, Cricket World Cup, I'm sorry. Granville is a past president of BAPE, having served 3 terms in that role. And as we mentioned, his work in the Barbados Coalition of Service Industries, he was president for 2 terms in that association. Granville has also served as secretary of the Caribbean Division of the Institution of Structural Engineers for 2 terms. And I haven't seen anything up here about Solutions Barbados and all of that, but I guess it's because we all know. So with that, Engineer Phillips, Engineer Dr. Granville Phillips II, I invite you to the podium to accept your award.
Yes, I plan to take my my 2 minutes allotted to me. Not sure if you wish to sit while I... Okay, well, let's go through it. I had to write it so that I can maintain my 2 minutes. Since I'm a product of my environment, I must thank my parents who brought me into this world. They're here. My siblings, my elder sister is here. She's the first person I saw, I suppose, when I arrived on this planet. My wife and my son is here. My colleagues, and given the context of this occasion, I must mention with special honor Engineer Tony Gibbs, Engineers Anthony Hutchinson, Philip Sobers, and the late Keith Johnson, who trained me during my engineering career. Any deficiencies in my work are due to my lack of diligence, not their training. Jesus asked the question, which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven you, or to say, rise up and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man has power on earth to forgive sins, I say to you, arise, take up your bed, and go to your house. Clearly, the easier thing to say is, your sins are forgiven you, because no one listening can verify that it was done. So Jesus said, the harder thing. I plan to spend the next half of my career encouraging people to believe what is possible by saying and doing the harder things. I wanted people to know that Barbados can be a lender and not a borrower country, but saying that was not enough. And Senator Cummins' speech was inspiring. Oh yes, that deserves it. I almost don't even have to read the rest of this, but I will. But saying it was not enough. So I paid off my mortgage in about half the time, but there is still unbelief. What hard things can I say to get people to believe? To believe that they can have their sins forgiven. To believe that life on earth prepares us for a wonderful afterlife responsibilities, so that we must learn to be kinder and more polite, more helpful, more tolerant, more knowledgeable, productive, stronger, healthier. We need to keep striving for excellence regardless of our position on that journey. We need to keep getting better. Time does not permit me to expand on my plans for launching satellites into orbit from Barbados, a Lamborghini qualifying for the 2024 Olympics, but I will say and try to do the hard things so that you may believe. While I previously talked about my mortgage and doctorate, I did not speak about becoming a fellow of the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, because Jesus said that a prophet is without honor in his own country. So this is unexpected, but it is greatly appreciated. More than my other fellowships, because it is from my own country. So I thank you. Almost done. It is recommended that speeches end with some levity. So in 2 years, if I am introduced, it may be Engineer Dr. the Olympian, Granville Phillips II. Perhaps then you may believe and vote for Solutions Barbados. I thank you.
Okay. Thank you all, and congratulations again. Excellent and very well deserved to all of our new fellows. So now we move on to recognition of the Project of the Year for 2021. As you saw, that project is the Vineyard Water Augmentation Project, which was undertaken by the Barbados Water Authority, our national water utility. And in case I run through things, I'm going to invite our colleagues from BWA to supplement where they wish and fill in on any of the key technical details that they wish to cover. So we are all Barbadians. We know how water is supplied to our country. We extract groundwater, and it's quite a challenge given the recent droughts in Barbados. Oh. You've had a busy day, Senator. Right. So, yes, we know our groundwater is supplied through the pumping of groundwater from our aquifer. And we know that over several years, Barbados has experienced drought conditions, and it really has been a challenge to maintain a reliable and consistent supply to areas of Barbados, including some of those you see listed there, including areas of St. Joseph, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, St. John, and so on. So BWA conceived of this project. Oops. The Vineyard Water Augmentation Project prior to 2019, but implementation started in 2021. The objective of the project was to transfer up to 1.5 million gallons of water per day from the Groves area of St. Philip to some of the deficit areas through improvement of the transmission system via Vineyard and Mount Pleasant. And as we see there, it was to serve customers who are connected and served through the Castle Grant and Golden Ridge East systems. So technically it involved raising water through elevations which you see on their program, on their presentation. And I'll just tell you a little bit about that. First, it was the transmission of water from the Groves pumping station to the existing Vineyard Reservoir. From there, upgrade of the transmission system from Vineyard Reservoir to Mount Pleasant, and that also included the installation of new water storage tanks and the construction of a new water pumping station. The transmission of water from that new facility at Mount Pleasant to the existing reservoir at Golden Ridge, and from there, upgrade of the transmission system from Golden Ridge to Castle Grant. So we talked about some of these things: the new pumping station at Vineyard, the installation of the new transmission system, and that's 16-inch diameter, HDPE mains, and so on. We don't need to get too much into the details. So as I said, we'll leave some of that perhaps for our BWA colleagues to mention. But a 4.6 kilometer 16-inch main was one of the highlights from Mount Pleasant to the pool area. And as we mentioned, modification of the existing distribution system, in addition to the work we talked about on the transmission system in Stewart Hill and Levels Road. These are some of the design considerations for route choice and material selection. And in addition to those, no doubt climate change considerations would have featured heavily in some of the engineering decisions taken by the Water Authority. And I will mention that this work, the design and supervision of the implementation of this work, was done largely in-house, if not entirely in-house, by the staff of the Barbados Water Authority. So we have with us this evening representatives of the Barbados Water Authority in the persons of the General Manager, Keith Roy Halliday, the Director of Engineering, Charles Leslie, and Engineer Darian Taylor. And we invite the BWA representatives to the podium to accept their award and as we said, to deliver brief remarks, including some of the information you might want to share about this very important project. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. It's always interesting to hear someone present a project that you're most intimately familiar with, and to realize that there's so many steps that you're aware of that someone else who is not as intimately involved would not be aware of. What I would say is that this project was a very major project, and the execution of this project really involved a number of components and a number of significant stakeholders. And while we will not be able to give all of them recognition today, I'll just make some very brief remarks to give some context that will hopefully also recognize all of those parties who would have certainly have been involved. Often many individuals see and grasp only the end results of projects such as these. And while some may marvel, others often take for granted the outputs and or outcomes, born as a result of carefully crafted and meticulously designed feats of engineering, such as this particular one as well. With careful thought, those who understand what is truly involved will recognize the competencies in the Barbados Water Authority's case and level of ingenuity and its resolute focus that clearly characterize the conclusion of a most fitting solution to a challenge that has plagued the island for years, for many, many years. It therefore gives me immense pleasure and certainly a sense of great joy to be able to accept to be able to accept this award on behalf of our parent ministry, board of directors, management and staff, our engineering team in particular, as well as the Barbados Workers Union, without whom this project would never have been possible. This project is a particularly notable one for our engineers, not only because it was a fully homegrown solution, but one which engendered a level of innovativeness that others did not at times share a similar level of optimism regarding its success. The project was conceptualized solely by our engineers, led by our President Director of Engineering, Charles Leslie, with ample support by members of his team, through engineers such as Elvin Jordan, Darian Taylor, Dylan Herbert, Nicholas Curtin, Roland Grant, to name a few. And I thought it was particularly important to at least recognize some of those guys who worked tirelessly on this project from start to end, not only in terms of the design, but in terms of operationalizing it as well. This project received the blessing of the government who found the means to finance it, to get it onto the ground. And it was additionally supported and sanctioned by our board, led firstly by our former chairman, Ms. Leodine Worrell, followed by our now current chairman, Mr. Stephen Roberts, and through a series of successive ministers, Mr. Wilfred Abrams, Mr. Ian Godin-Edgell, and our current minister and Deputy Prime Minister, Santia Bradshaw. For us, a very public award like this says to our teams that you see them, and that you also see the product of their labor, and that you recognize the abilities and world-class product that the Barbados Water Authority can and continues and continually produces. Again, on behalf of the board, management, and staff, we graciously thank you for your acknowledgement of that, and we thank you for your recognition of this simple truth. Thank you.
Our final award, and before I start that, another round of applause for our BWA colleagues. Our final award for this evening makes no less of a contribution to several aspects of the development of Barbados. Barbados Light and Power's Clean Energy Bridge is being recognized as the Project of the Year for 2022. So I'm going to share with you some of the presentation of the details of this project. So the Clean Energy Bridge, it was a 2-year project implemented by the Barbados Light and Power Company Limited and is located at their facility at Trent's St. Lucie. I had the pleasure of visiting that site earlier in the year, and it's the site of their 10 megawatt solar PV facility. So energy delivered from the plant will contribute approximately 20% of the annual energy requirements for Barbados. In addition, the Clean Energy Bridge will provide for flexible integration of renewable energy onto the grid, reduce the demand on their older generation assets at Spring Garden and other places, increase the generation of location diversity, and provide reliable generation capacity. So the scope included the plant's engineering, procurement, and construction through an EPC contract. And we have details there about the generating facilities, the generation equipment at this station. Some of the main components of the project scope included the pre-investment studies, the human resource planning, site preparation, the engineering design, the construction, that being the civil works as well, and testing for that facility. So what that has resulted in is the installation of a 33 megawatt medium speed diesel generating facility. So we've got a look at some of the rooms there, and I know it's not just because it's new. Light and Power and their best practices would require that the station be operated looking as clean and organized as you see in the photographs there. So we mentioned the contribution this will make to the energy supply of Barbados, which speaks to these things: the availability of the electrical supply, reliability of that supply, and adding in no small way to the energy resilience of Barbados. The environmental benefits, in addition to the benefits of their solar PV. In fact, I'm going to leave some of this for our speakers from Light and Power to fill you in on, because there are substantial environmental benefits to retiring the old generation plants that they have got at Spring Garden and replacing this with much more efficient equipment at Trent's. Some of the challenges the company would have faced and through their project manager overcome in constructing this facility. I remember being told about the large equipment that was to be shipped up there and the challenges that presented with regard to planning, the routes they would take and so on. So there's a safety dimension to that. The fact that the work was undertaken during the COVID period also, I mean, we would all know, but particularly those undertaking major construction and infrastructure projects over the period, you know, that presented significant hurdles to be overcome. We see their mention of the delay of shipments, and we know we're still experiencing those delays across numerous sectors, so you can imagine the call on this sort of equipment globally and the challenges that Light and Power would then have had to overcome. And the equipment has now been commissioned and is in service supporting the energy demand of Barbados. So with that, I'm going to invite the colleagues from Barbados Light and Power to the podium. We've got here, we've got the general, Roger, what's your title again? Managing Director of Barbados Light and Power, Roger Blackman, supported by his team, including Rohan Seal, and the the project manager of the Clean Energy Bridge, engineering manager, Dave Skeet. So welcome to the podium, colleagues. I think they're asking you to do some others, some of the poses. And I should also give him his proper recognition. Engineer Blackman is, of course, a past president of the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers as well. So, gentlemen.
Good evening, all. First, let me start with the thank yous, the most important part. So Barbados Light and Power thanks the association for this award, which we see as an acknowledgement of the high standards of engineering represented in the project. At this point, I would like to acknowledge those persons whose efforts contributed to the success of this project. The project team, under guidance of our Managing Director, Engineer Roger Blackman, Director Asset Management, Rohan Seal, and Project Director Roger Burton of Emira, who is not with us tonight. The members of the BLPC engineering team comprised Engineer Johan Graves, who is not here with us, Engineer Wayne Prescott, Engineer Gail Innes, Engineer Ramon Jules, Engineer Philip Brown, Engineer Cyprian Moore, Engineer Moisha Steinbach, Engineer Charmaine Gill Evans. We also acknowledge the contributions of Engineer Peter Williams, retired Senior Vice President of Emira Caribbean. Credit must be given to our colleagues in the non-engineering roles and disciplines whose efforts made this all possible. Our colleagues in the operations section, health, safety and environment, finance, human resources, corporate communications, information technology and communications, customer solutions, asset management, and legal. Last but certainly not least, we thank those organizations and companies who did the heavy lifting, literally and figuratively, to make it all happen. Many of their employees were on the ground in the early days of the pandemic when most were still working from home. At a time when there was panic if someone passed near someone who passed near someone who tested positive for COVID. Some worked through lockdowns after BLPC obtained permission to continue construction and worked many long hours and weekends to recover time lost due to the pandemic and the ashfall from the eruption of La Soufrière volcano. While time does not permit me to go through the entire list this evening, I will highlight a few of these companies and organizations. Wartzilla Corporation and their subcontractors, including Kent Construction, Structural Systems, Williams Electrical, DM Simpson, Mott McDonald, Alan Armstrong Associates, Damus Limited and their subcontractors, R&S Construction and their subcontractors, including Everson R. Elcott and Company and TMR, Richard Gill Associates, Stantec Consulting, C.O. Williams Construction, the Office of the Attorney General, Barbados Port Inc., Town and Country Planning Office, Coastal Zone Management Unit, Environmental Protection Department, the Barbados Sea Turtle Project, Customs and Excise Department, the Barbados Fire Service. Now, the entire list would have been like 70, 80, so I couldn't go through all of that. A big thanks to the Arawat Cement Company for permitting Light and Power to use their property to receive and transfer plant equipment, which was too heavy to transport by road. Special thanks to the St. Lucie Parliamentary Representative, the Honorable Peter Phillips, MP, and to our neighbors in St. Lucie for their patience during the equipment transportation and construction. So just a brief word on the Clean Energy Bridge project. As you would have seen in the slide presentation, it is a very efficient plant and it will enable us to improve our service to the customers, maintain our reliability and resilience. In the short term, it will allow us to realize savings to the customers. Within the first month of operation of this plant, we realized fuel savings to the tune of approximately 10 million Barbados dollars. And so that is looking promising. The plant is operating very well as a reliable baseload plant. It has been in operation since June of this year. So we are doing well and we see a bright future for that plant. So in terms of the environmental side of things, which was touched on briefly, the plant runs on a low sulfur fuel, which means that the sulfur dioxide emissions of the plant will be less compared to some of our older plants, which were previously utilizing a higher sulfur fuel, a lower ash content, which means less dust and ash emissions, and also by consuming less fuel per kilowatt hour of energy produced, the plant actually is contributing to a more efficient and helping to enable us with our achievement of our green targets. So thanks very much for all of the support we've gotten from both the engineering association as well as all those stakeholders associated with the project. Thank you.
This thing is extremely heavy, so I was watching that speech very carefully. But I wanted to make sure that we thank Dave as well. Dave was the project manager and obviously representing us here in receiving the award, and really ably and competently managed the project in one of the most difficult periods in the company's history. So thank you, Dave, as well, for your service.
So thank you to our colleagues at the Barbados Light and Power Company once again, and join me once again in a final round of applause for them. And that really brings us to the end of our awards. And I call that the fun part of the evening, but for some, maybe the dinner coming up might be the more fun part of the evening. So I'm going to find out shortly whether we are ready for that and where we are. But in the meantime, I invite you to chat at your tables, and we'll be right back to make an announcement. Thanks. Colleagues, I'm sorry. We've been asked to ask all of the awardees to assemble for a group photo, which I think is an excellent idea. So all of the awardees, if you could assemble for a group photo, please. Okay, ladies and ladies and gentlemen, we will invite the minister's table to proceed to dinner. That will be followed by all of the other tables. We won't ask you to go in any particular order. We'll simply allow the minister's table to move first, and then others can proceed in good order subsequently.